I think having the ability to be able to test the strategy, refine the strategy, and then prove that it's working, the results will speak for themselves. If your marketing strategy is working and you're doing the right things, you will be generating revenue. You will helping increase retention. You will be engaging clients. The advisors will be bought in. Everyone will be bought in.
Welcome back to another episode of Marketing Matchup. Today with us are two finalists for the CMO of the Year Awards at the Wealthies coming up next month in New York City. I have Deana Lewis, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at the Mather Group, and Maria Bethel from Axtella. Both of you women have done a lot of great things to help build your organization, shape the outlook and visibility for your firms. This will be an opportunity for two of you to share some of the magic that's got you to the podium coming up here next month at the Wealthies. Love to be able to dive in and get a grasp of the insights and things you want to share. So let's do this. Let's introduce you to our audience. Maria Bethel, take it away. How'd you get here, Maria? How did you end up doing what you're doing?
Well, I like your term magic there. I was thinking, I'm not sure if some people call it happenstance and others call it fate. But I actually started, 15, 16 years ago or so. I was working at Invest Financial in the transitions department and was doing great there. But then one day they were like, oh, we need someone to learn social media because we had this big movement where social media came into our space. And all of a sudden, all the financial advisors wanted help with social media. And next thing you know, I'm leading social media, having to learn how to become an expert in that area. And then that one thing led to another. Next thing you know, I'm recruiting and doing lead generation marketing, which led to my next role, which was a firm in Texas who was looking for that exact skill set. And basically one thing leads to another. So if you open yourself up to work outside of your comfort zone and what you're used to, you really never know where it will lead. And almost 5 years later, here I am at Axtella.
And so just give us one more nugget on Axtella. So what are you really doing today for Axtella?
So I lead the marketing and events divisions, and that includes financial advisor marketing. It includes our business development marketing. And all of our in-person and virtual events is run through my team as well. And then also under our umbrella sits the partnerships. So my team handles all of our relationships with our strategic partners as well. So we found out, again, one of those things, you're not sure if it's happenstance or fate, like however it came about, is we're working so much, so frequently with all of our partners when it comes to marketing and at our events that it just made sense for that seat to sit under the marketing umbrella too. So my division heads up all three of those units.
Well, that's a great reference point. Obviously, a lot of advisor as your key audience. And Deana, you have a little bit of a different track, but like Maria, you've been in the financial world for a long time. Give us your backstory.
Yes, thanks, Joe. Maria, that was a great story. I've been in the business, specifically in the financial service, wealth management, marketing space for almost 20 years. And if you would have asked me 20 years ago if this is where I was going to end up, I would have said absolutely not. It happened, I would say, Maria, you said it right. It happened by faith. So at the time I was working, my family has a wholesale leather business, and I grew up in trade shows and within the sales and like marketing entrepreneurial background. And I didn't want to take over and go into the family business. So I was working towards like the fashion business industry. I was working at Movado, the watch shop, as a transition spot for me. I was 23 years old. And in walked Howard Nixon. He was the owner of one of the founders of Iron Financial, and he was a watch collector. He's like, show me your most expensive watch. I'm really interested in looking at different brands. And I showed him the watch and I said, listen, I'm going to show you this, but I don't think you should buy it. You should go down the block and invest in something that holds better value, better quality. And we just started talking. He's like, I'm interested in your background. I think I have a job for you. And I was like, and that was it. And that's literally by me being open and transparent is what kind of started my career in this space. And to be honest, it's been amazing. So 20 years of just every day is a new day. Every day is a new challenge. And it's been so fun. And I've been fortunate to be around some of the brightest minds in the industry. And, getting to the Mather Group, I'm the CMO here. It was not an easy path, right? Like, I know we're going to probably talk about this in a little bit, but when you think about what marketing was 20 years ago to what it is today, marketing in the RA space was heavily led by the founders or the business development people. They were the ones that were, driving the growth, and like marketing really came in as a support function to help with like creative and content and events and website. And now that's shifted. So my role at the Mather Group as the chief marketing officer, I oversee all brand, content, creative, strategy, communications, and I have a team underneath me. And then I also have some outsourced partners that I work with. And that's really how I got here.
Maria and Deana, I love your backstories. I love the fact that the two of you have spent so much time in the financial industry growing up and really getting perspective in terms of how financial marketing gets done. And I think what happens is that so few people that are leading on a CMO level in the financial industry really are financial industry natives just because there hasn't been a huge talent. So I have to ask you, as your firms continue to grow and develop, how do you turn around and look for marketers to help build out your team? How do you go about addressing the staffing need is in terms of either picking outside agency help or hiring people? Deanna, I'll pick on you first. How would you address that? How do you go looking for talent to build your team?
So I think you really need to get specific on what you need to do. You need to start there, right? Within your strategy, what are the gaps? And then where do you need help to fill those gaps? So I'm a big believer of outsource where needed, right? So having a killer PR agency, having a great digital agency, you can bring it in-house when it makes sense. But for us, we have an outsourced digital marketing partner. And inside, the org, it depends on a lot of variables, right? Team structures, budgets, how big do you want to go? Where do you want to go? So, right now, when I joined the Mather Group, marketing really was just a function at the firm. It didn't fully exist, and they actually did not have someone in the marketing seat for a good 8 months. So when I joined, I was a team of one. So I knew quickly I had to build an outsourced team before I could ramp up my internal team. I did. I hired a great PR agency and a great digital marketing partner. We worked from there, and then we launched the brand. And then I started adding who I needed to add to fill the gaps, right? So I hired someone as my marketing associate to be a kind of generalist, to be my right hand and help me execute on things. And then now I have her leading, her name's Mia. She's leading our events and content marketing and helping us, deliver experiences that way. And then I also just hired a marketing ops person as we start to think about attribution and bringing all this data together. And as I think about where I want to be, it'll look like something like a channel marketer to market these like niche segments that we're going to be targeting. And then it'll be another marketing ops person because I need to make sense of all the data.
Well, and that's helpful to understand how you're framing it out. And I think you were smart to a degree to get things going with outside agency help not just because I run an agency myself, I support those things, but a lot of times people get the wheels stuck before they even get going because they're not willing to start somewhere. And sometimes that means leveraging outside help. Maria, now you're feeding a lot of beasts over there at Axtella because obviously you're supporting multiple broker dealers. You've got the RIA piece. So these advisors are generally hungry. And so how does it change how you stack the deck in terms of building your team?
Yeah, I would say I really agree with everything Deanna said as far as you have to look at your budget first and foremost. What are the existing team members? If there are any, similar to Deanna, when I came into Axtella, there were 3 team members, 2 graphic designers, and editor. But one of the first things I did, similar to Deanna, was hire a digital agency and then the PR firm, as you're well aware, Joe. And then digging past that was, okay, what is the true skill set of the individuals that work here right now? Are they in the right seat? And how can I help them grow? What does the next 5 years look like for them? And we've seen that change for a couple of them. They're past because they weren't necessarily in the right seat to start with. And then additionally, one of the exercises I like to go through is, where are we going to bring the most value? What's going to hit the hardest when it comes to what the advisors are wanting and what do their clients need? Thus was birthed our financial professional marketing program and bringing on someone that was specialized and focused in that area and a graphic designer to support those needs. And because if we're hitting a home run over here, we are more likely to get approved for what we need over there. And so I'm sure there's a ton of marketing people out there that are like me, that you want to bite off everything. You want to be able to succeed in everything all at once. But sometimes you have to pull yourself back a little bit and say, okay, how can I prove the win so that I can ask for more? Because I'm going to come in and ask for the sun, moon, and stars, full well knowing you're only going to give me the stars. But then I'm going to prove something else. So then you then give me the moon. So that's usually my plan of attack.
I love the way you phrase that, Maria, just because my point of view is that very often, particularly in the world of wealth management, there's this, prove it or lose it mentality in terms of investing in marketing. Like something's got to stick in order for it to gain momentum to do more. And very often, sometimes, you'll get someone coming in and say, when can we expect results? When can we build out our sense of expectation on our KPIs? And Deana, you said it a little earlier. You talk about, you alluded to marketing analytics and measurement. How would you address that? Like when you start building out this confidence, as Maria said, hey, maybe show it could work, we'll get approval elsewhere. How do you build out a sort of KPI dashboard measurement that also makes sense to the people that are deciding on budgets and whether or not you could do more with marketing?
Yeah, and honestly, I love that question because a lot of times it is a loaded question, right? So as you are, like, for example, I'm just share from my personal journey. So when I came into the Mather Group, I was tasked with, you need to rebuild the brand. We need to relaunch the brand into market. We need to pick up M&A activity. There was a lot of new things that needed to come in to the strategy. So when you're doing that, of course, you're going to put your KPIs and your targets, but to start seeing real measurable results, that takes time for, it to percolate in the market to see like what's working, what's not working. So how we approached that early on within the first year after I had launched a new brand, we did a lot of test and learn activities. So we tested certain markets with paid media. We tested certain strategies around event marketing, client appreciation events. And then from there, once we started seeing traction and pickup, that's where we started doubling down on the efforts. We're like, all right, this is working for us. We're picking up good traction here. Let's keep the momentum going. As we move into the next year, we doubled down on those efforts. And then same thing's happening now. I'm analyzing things based on, is it working? Is it not working? And then I also have like a little like slush fund to be like, okay, let's do some experiential stuff. Let's try something new out of the box, because I think it's important to kind of keep a reserve on the side so you can like pick up on, market activity, trending things that aren't necessarily your strategy, but just part of like you being relevant to what's happening in the space.
Yeah. And Maria, in some ways, you and Deana have different marketing paradigms in that you're largely working for advisors. But Deana, obviously, you're doing acquisitions. You have to stay relevant for the advisor force. Maria, how would you go about changing or reframing those measurables or those analytics to make sure your internal constituents want to buy into the marketing and seeing the results that they're looking for?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that and then replay this for my boss just to make sure.
Yeah.
So I love that. One of the exercises I like to go through, especially with the rest of the leadership team, with my team, whatever other stakeholders are involved, is not set expectations. Let's all be realistic about what results we're looking for. What are you looking for marketing to deliver? Here's what we believe that we can deliver with X amount of dollars, because budget also plays a role. Resources that are available to you plays a role. And sometimes it can be a little easy to get caught up in, we just want to see 40% revenue growth this year from new advisors coming in the door. Okay, well, let's take a look at the fact that the most recent surveys say that 8 to 9% of advisors are actually making a decision to move to a broker dealer year over year. Of that 9%, this is the percentage that is our target audience. So in order to get a 40% growth on our side, we would need to be able to capture 90% of what is actually moving in the marketplace. And so when you actually start putting these realistic measures in front of others, I think it becomes a little more like, oh, okay, maybe maybe I should taper back just a little bit in order to have more realistic expectations. So I like to go through that exercise with them, but then also leave the hope out there. Like there's so much more we can do. I like what Deana said about the experimental stuff as well. Like, hey, we don't know if this is going to work, but heck yeah, we're going to try it. And it's only going to take this percentage of our budget. It may not work, but then again, it might. And so using some of the budget experimentally as well. But I think setting the expectations and making sure your OKRs and your KPIs are something that are achievable year over year.
So, Maria, when you take a look at some of the things you've experimented with, what's been a happy surprise for you on that front? Is there any tactic or trick that you developed as a result of the experimentation?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say direct mail is anything net new to any marketer out there, but how we went about it is experimental, I would say. So an example is a campaign where we sent video boxes to advisors who had fallen off at a certain part of our sales cycle. And we're like, okay, let's reach back out to those who fell off at this point in our sales cycle. We're going to reach out to them with this specific message within this video box. The campaign was around listening. And so we included Bose earbuds within the box. And then the recruiter sent them a specific message that was customized to them within the video mailer, right? And so, and then there was a little card in there as well. So we really increased the value of what was in the direct mailer versus like a mass message where we're trying to reach everyone. We really narrowed it down to this niche little specific subset of individuals that we were looking to target. Very specific messaging, the actual item that was in the box. And we saw a huge return in the pipeline of advisors that came back into the pipeline after receiving that box. And in addition to that, a couple of phone calls came in that said, this is the type of marketing I want done for my company. This is the best marketing that I've ever received. And so when you hear of those types of results, that makes you stop and say, okay, that experiment went well, because it's very rare you're going to get a phone call that says, this was great marketing. If anything, it's nothing or the opposite, right? So you really want to pay it, in my opinion, attention to those moments and see how you can increase those types of results.
Maria, I like the fact that you sort of went back in time for a tactic to cultivate. And I think it's so rare that people get quality direct mail today that actually stands out. So that leads me to another question I'll come back to in a second, but I want to hear Deana's response to this. What are some of the experimentations that have worked out well? Or maybe an experimentation that you tried or something that you thought was going to be killer and flopped? Do you have anything to offer there, Deana?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Maria, well done. I love that whole experience. I think that you're right. It's like when you get something in the mail that's meaningful, you want to open it, right? Or it looks substantial. So you're like, what is this? So I love that. For us, it was when I had joined the firm, client appreciation events were kind of stalled, right? We came off of COVID 4 years ago. Live in-person events were kind of like, on hold for a while. So I wanted to bring that back. So I started experimenting with like, okay, what can we do that's going to give someone an experience? I looked into the market, and like obviously health was topics. Everyone's always interested in health and feeling their best, looking their best. So we launched these client appreciation events called Health is Wealth. And the first hour was, socializing, networking with, other clients. We had a live jazz band. We had really nice hors d'oeuvres and cocktails or mocktails. And then the second half was we bring in a holistic doctor and we talk about, feeling your best self. So like the formula to that event was like, entertain them, have good food, good drinks, and then have them leaving, like learning something and feeling like it's all connected. And that's really what we started experimenting with. And the results were incredible. Like our first event, we had over 25 households they called us the next day thanking us how, they loved the event. It was great. Then we started replicating that across the country. And it led to, more referrals, better lifetime value of the client. And just, we did it for them. Like there's no sales pitch. There's no, we're not trying to sell anything. It's really about like, we wanted to celebrate our clients and help them learn something to make them feel their best.
As you take a look at things here, Deanna, obviously one of the difficulties when you're planning marketing for a firm that's both B2B and B2C is how to make sure that the marketing really resonates with advisors. And both you and Maria have talked about some things in your earlier responses about how advisors have been energized by some of the things you've been doing with your Health is Wealth series or Maria's specialized box that provoked some of those advisors to say, hey, I want some of that too. And so how do you go about conceiving marketing that works for both the advisor and their clients, Deanna?
So we have a little bit of a different model. So we're bifurcated. We have a sales and business development function, and then we have our advisors. And our advisors really focus on that client relationship, making sure that they're giving the best treatment and care to the clients. But they focus on referrals and increase in wallet share as well, while marketing and business development really fill that pipeline. So we have a motto, and this is our value prop. It's like you don't get one advisor, you get the Mather group. And that is embodied externally and then internally as well. So that is how we function. We function as one growth unit. And within our organic growth channels, we have 9 channels that we're running. So at any given point of, the month, there's 9 channels that are driving in pipeline activity. So everyone benefits from that, right? So the business development people have meetings booked. The advisors have meetings that the clients that they're gaining, and then the marketing activity helps with client retention and engagement. So we're really one connected growth system, and everyone is responsible for it, and we all are unified around that.
Well, it's interesting approach there 'cause obviously, Maria, you're in a different camp where although a lot of the advisors are affiliated with the same broker dealer setup, for example, they're all in business for themselves. And how do you scale your support to meet the needs of so many different advisors in that situation?
That is a great question, and one that we continue to explore and will probably always be continuing to explore. And there's third party marketing platforms that help us be able to do that, as well as growing our team internally. But I will say this is fairly top of mind. Basically, a conversation I had yesterday has had this very top of mind for me, and then previous conversations I've had that were along the same lines. And I had an advisor call me yesterday. We had a very transparent conversation. We're talking about our events specifically, but this kind of goes with marketing and other areas as well. And he's one of our top producers, and he says to me, when I come to an event of yours, as a top producer, I want to know when I take one day to a week, whatever it is, out of my office, that I'm getting enough value in return for me to be there. What are you educating me on, and what value did I take away from it? And he was very transparent and said, I didn't get value from this, that, and the other. I did get value from A, B, and C, but I didn't from 1, 2, and 3. And so sort of sparks started going off in my mind as, okay, then how do we tailor more of what we're doing to what's bringing value specifically to an advisor's office versus sometimes what we think is bringing value from the home office perspective is not necessarily the same perspective that an advisor has as to what's bringing value to me. And so I think we have to sit down and make sure we're looking through the lens properly before we're deciding what areas we need to scale up, because we want to make sure it's an area that's actually bringing value. And one of those can be, is it a program that's about evaluation of their firm and that's actually educating them and helping them? Does that look like a succession planning program? And we package that up as a campaign for them. What I'm just saying, dig deeper into what areas you actually need to scale versus just attempting to scale.
Yeah.
And I'll add, Joe, Maria, I think, when you think about too, like the advisor marketing, like it varies across the country too, right? Every region is going to have different things that they're going to want to focus on. Maybe they have higher concentration in certain types of clients that they service versus others. So I think that, to your point, like it's really important to understand like where you need to like dig deeper and go to help, you know, build that pipeline, increase your revenue, right? But then also like make sure that you're targeting the right people with the right with your dollars. Otherwise, you're just throwing money out the door.
So let's take a step back and get a little more philosophical about marketing here for a second. So one of the things that we all know is that the world of marketing within wealth management, whether your audience is advisors, the end client, or both, it's never been busier, never been more crowded. It's never been more fragmented in terms of different places people get information, right? Social media, Reddit, AI search, regular search, newspapers, TV, radio, podcasts. There's so many different avenues for information exchange. Sometimes it's even harder to keep track of what you're actually saying on your firm's behalf in all those places because it's so fragmented. And so at a point in time where all this is happening, and then there's also the arrival of AI content and AI search, you have to look at the question that maybe it's more complicated than ever and more demanding than ever and in demand to have a focus on differentiation and making sure your message and brand position is nuanced to stand out. So before I go any further, do you agree or disagree with that premise? You on board with that?
I'm on
I
board.
agree.
Yeah.
So in doing that, what does a firm, neither one of your firms are both good sized firms, but you're not BlackRock, you're not Vanguard, you're not Fidelity, you're not household names. How does one sit down and say, how do we make Axtella or Mather Group stand out, or Parkland or Sigma for that matter, Maria, right? How do you make this brand stand out for the advisor, for the client in a constructive way in this marketplace where it's competitive and noisy and fragmented? Who wants to take that? Deanna, you want to go?
Yeah, I can open that one. So it goes back to, I think, staying true to your value prop and knowing what you're good at, right? So we know that I've mentioned you don't get one advisor, you get the Mather Group. Everything we do that we push out for content all bubbles back up to that, full service, comprehensive wealth management approach. So whether it's, our Smart Money Moves podcast where we like educate an audience on, behavioral finance and the markets, we're going to educate them there, but then we're going to drive them back to the website where it's going to show if you become a client of the Mather Group, you get all this, no matter who you are. And then we have specialized expertise to help you with X, Y, and Z. So that was one of the things, like when I first got into this industry, and I think coming from like a fashion business creative background really helped me look at things differently. Versus like I wasn't just seeing things in different shades of like gray and green. Like I was looking at things as like hot pink and blue and like blaring different things. But it's because you don't, we're talking to normal people. Like I think everyone, I always say this, I think people forget that us in the industry, we all know who each other are, right? We understand all the brands, all the names, all the people. If you talk to your neighbor and you say, who is this firm? They're going to be like, I don't know. But if you ask them who is Bank of America, JP Morgan, they're going to know, right? Because that's like part of their life. So I think we put too much emphasis sometimes on, promoting the firm and the brand, but really it's about how can you connect with the person, what they need and their wants, and make it simple. Because one of the things I've noticed is you go to someone's website and it's like, okay, I'm an executive, I'm a woman, I have a small business. Do I now have to click on 3 tabs? Why do we do that, right? For SEO, I know why we do it, but like we're making it difficult for our people to find out. So I think it's like less is more in that approach.
Interesting. And Maria, how would you answer that in terms of working to make sure that the brands you're representing stand out in a situation like this where it has been so noisy and so fragmented?
Yeah, so I like to see things in hot pink as well. So love to hear that. Uh, it's interesting because we had a call yesterday and our head of business development was giving us a pipeline update. And we're a mid-sized firm, so we're not going to have the largest payouts in the industry. That's just a fact, right? And so he said the reason that he has the individuals in the pipeline that he does right now is because of our value proposition, and he really wanted us to understand that. on the call. And I was really happy that he called that out, because it means, okay, what we stand for is sticking out to the right people at the right time, right? And I agree with Deanna that it's obviously very complicated. As you opened the question up, everything around us is marketing these days, and how do you break through the noise, especially with a brand that's not yet a household name. But I agree with Deanna as far as simplifying it. I've talked to my team recently. Let's go back to brass tacks here. What is our core promise? And let's really lean into that. We're not going to be everything to everyone, but our brand is nothing more at the end of the day than its promise. And if we're making good on that promise and we're delivering, then the right people will be attracted to that, whether we have the biggest name in the industry or not.
And so you go through this process, right? And every firm is sitting there thinking, how do I make ourselves stand out in the right way? How do I get through this from a sort of organic growth mindset where more people are going to want to come affiliate with my firm, or sign up, bring their accounts over to my firm. And so it's a challenge. And right now, I think because of this scramble, and frankly, also because of what AI search has told us, is that public relations and earned media is having a moment in a whole new way, right? Where firms are looking to get after building brand visibility in those media channels, even though I felt like maybe the 2010 to 2020 time period was social media's domain to sort of get financial service firm attention. I think it's back in the camp of PR. What do you make of that? And what is your firm's strategy around using earned media and for brand visibility? And Maria, full disclosure, your firm's a client, so I'll let you go first, and you can tell people a little bit about that.
So when I think about our brand as a whole, the more that we improve and evolve that brand, the easier everything else becomes, right? The easier lead generation is, the easier it is for the sales team to get a deal across the line. So I look at earned media, things like public relations and the work that you all do with us, Joe, as just extremely important for this top of the funnel awareness for the firm, because the more that we grow that visibility, the easier everything else becomes for us.
And again, when you start thinking about that, right? So the scramble that brands have to gain visibility, trying to make sure you're hitting home the right way. It's obviously different for a firm like Deana's, where you're very much, Deana, unless I'm mistaken, you're trying to use PR to engage the consumer audience as much as anything, a little differently than Maria might be looking at. And so I'm curious, how does the PR game shape up in your world?
Well, actually, Joe, it's both. So from a brand value standpoint, I'm tracking the end client, but also other like-minded RA firms that want to partner with us. So at any given time, from a PR standpoint, I'm doing both. And I like to say, if they don't know who you are, then they won't know who you are. And it is our job as marketers. We need to connect with the right agencies to help tell our story, because as we all know, if we cannot tell our story, somebody else will tell it for us, and they're probably going to get it wrong. So it is our job to really engage with those right partners. I think PR, and I'm not just saying this, Joe, because we're on this podcast, but I believe in your firm and the firm that I work with. It is no longer an option. It is a necessity. PR is essential to, especially in the world of AEO and search, right? Yes, we want to show up in those chatbots, but also it builds credibility. I'll share a story. We recently were in the Wall Street Journal buy side as one of the top 7 RA firms for comprehensive planning. 2 years ago, that wouldn't have happened because we weren't visible. We didn't have the right traction because of, the visibility through PR, the content we're putting out. When the reporter was going out through the search, pulling the different filings and whatnot, looking at content and our messaging, that's what came up. So that was earned media. That wasn't paid. That wasn't a survey. So the power is there. You just have to do it the right way.
Let's go back to the topic of AI search. I think most firms recognize it as a piece of the puzzle. At the same time, some firms are letting it happen to them. Some people are doing things intentionally to address it. And Deana, I'll go to you first. What is your AI search optimization strategy? Do you have one? How do you, does your firm think about that in terms of overall proactive efforts to market and promote itself?
Yeah. So yes, we have one. I have been a huge advocate of AI over the last 3 to 4, like 3.5 years now. So when we build our website, when we build content, we build it with AI search in mind, right? We build content to where it can answer certain questions. We have our FAQs in the schema. We make sure the backlinks are all set up properly. So we do always have SEO, AEO, GEO. It's always in mind. Right now, one of the things we're doing as a firm is since we have 14 offices around the country, a lot of them are through partnerships and acquisitions. So we are enhancing our Google business profile to really make sure that we're targeting all the right keywords, search intent, and like being really specific by geography, and then also making sure that we have all the proper naming conventions built in place to help with the search. But having the PR, having the website, having the content AI optimized really does help. I mean, we're starting to see leads come in directly, like from my UTM source as ChatGPT. We have clients we've had prospective clients while they're interviewing us, like have chat up and asking questions along the way. And like the chat is favorable for us, which is great, right? But as we know, you blink your eye and it changes tomorrow. So like as marketers, like what I did last week needs to be different than what I do next week. So it's almost like something's on fire and we have to keep putting out that fire and chasing a new one.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you have a concerted effort around that because I do think there's a lot of RIA marketers I talk to are still trying to figure out what that solution is going to be. And I'd love to hear from Maria. What is the posture around AI search at Axtella in terms of the work you're doing? Is it showing up more in terms of how you help advisors or more as you're thinking about a parent company approach?
So it's a little bit of both, but I would say weights more heavily at this moment towards the home office, what we're doing at the corporate level. So we are in the process of putting together our strategy. I've been meeting recently with the AI committee, but more specifically, we ran an audit on our website recently that was specific to a GEO and where we were lacking when it comes to AI search engines results. So took the very long audit, actually met with your team to discuss some of those audit results and what you all are doing. And so it's been more of a research and auditing process up to this point. And we're in the beginning stages of putting the actual plan together and then implementing some of those learnings.
Well, and to flesh out what Maria is saying, so at Gregory, Deana, we built something last year, launched it called the Gregory Influence Engine, which is a platform, a tool that helps firms get a better grasp on our AI search presence, not only in terms of the firms that you might stack up against, but also on certain prompts. And we actually got word that we're finally made that tool onto the Kitsy's advisor services map. It'll show up. The next rendition of it comes out in August on the Influence Engine and beyond that. And it's one of the things, the reason why I asked that question is because the puck moves so fast, specifically in
Okay.
this area right now. And the things when we actually accelerated the launch of it to September of last year, even though we had planned for fourth quarter, because we realized so much was changing. And part of a strong optimization platform is a tool that can help clients change as things change. And the thing is that we're influencing what showed up on chat versus Gemini versus Perplexity was evolving, where self-publishing platforms like Reddit or Quora or Medium or Substack, they all had, or even LinkedIn to a degree, they all had different levels of influence and impact, and they
Yep.
would change. And so you go through this, and you're saying, okay, isn't being a marketer hard enough? But all these mouths to feed, all these, and then now every week or every month, the rules are changing slightly. Um, and so
Isn't it insane though? Can we just call out for a moment how amazing and awesome marketers are, because the amount of change and growth and evolution that happens within our sect is very substantial, probably in comparison to a lot of other types of industries that don't experience quite as much change and evolution like within short periods of time. So you have to be quick on your feet, willing to learn, go outside of your comfort zone. I mean, it takes a special person to keep up with all of
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
will add too, like to your point, Joe and Maria, like being comfortable with the audit. Like, that's what it's for. It's gonna give us things that are gonna make us uncomfortable. We're gonna be like, wow, I thought we were hitting all the marks. Clearly we're missing a few, right?
it.
And
Yeah.
I like taking that and like, having that humility and being like, all right, how do we change that? Like how do we address where there's some gaps? How do I make it better to where I'm showing up? And one of the things I found too with some of the audits that we've done is like the directories, right? So like let's just say we have something like Smart Asset or some other places where they may not always have the most up to date information. Like getting in front of those channels where it's like, okay, it has the right brand message, it has the right AUM, it has the right value prop. So then it's consistent across every channel. And I personally think that's the real challenge that we face is like how do we wrap our arms around all these directories, all these places where we show up because you're showing up in places that you wouldn't even think there would be content on your firm, right? So it's like, how do you change that?
So let's dive back into the AI search optimization question for a second. Part of this that's so confounding for marketers is the idea that it's hard to get maybe some of the older mindset, the less experimental mindset to get behind what you have to do in order to win an AI search. Maria and Deanna, how do you get buy-in in terms of your marketing, making sure you're doing the right things to win an AI search? Is it something that's been a cultural shift for your firm? Has it come up at all? How do you play that game in terms of making sure those are less connected to this approach, support and buy-in to the AI search piece? Maria, do you want to take that one?
Well, first and foremost, the other day I sent out, well, probably a couple weeks ago, I sent out a survey to our advisors. Simple 8 questions. Please take 3 minutes of your time. And it was all 8 questions that were specific to AI. Um, what sh- um, what search engines are you utilizing today? How often are you utilizing them? What other tools are you interested in learning about, etc.? Because at least where I am and in the history of my career could be different elsewhere. But if the field is saying to you, this is important to me, here's the parts that are important to me, then it's easier for internal stakeholders to say, okay, we do need to prioritize this. This is important to our advisors, our clients. So therefore, we're willing to put in um, more than maybe we would have otherwise.
And how does that take shape in your universe, Deanna, when you're trying to get buy-in from the larger group around how to win the AI search game?
You know, I'll say like we are very AI forward, both on, the productivity side and the prospecting side. So like from advisor productivity and workflow, like we have started the AI journey, about a year and a half ago, and we're really fully invested in like in transforming the org from that sense. But then on the prospecting side and for search, like we use tools that help us understand like where are people looking, what are they searching for. We're capturing intent signals, we're understanding who our target audience is, what they're looking for and when they're looking for it. We also have adopted some new prospecting tools where we can identify money in motion and catalysts that help us then pinpoint exactly when we should deploy a campaign, when we should have active outreach from the sales team. So I would say like I do feel very like excited, and we are all in the organization very AI forward. Like it's kind of cool to see. Like honestly, like even if they're you know older, they're still into it, so it doesn't matter.
That's awesome. So a couple episodes ago, I had one of the co-founders of Finny on the podcast, and so it makes me ask, Deanna, do you use a tool like Finny or Casheye? What are you using to? You mentioned some of these tools. I'm curious, what's part of that marketing stack?
Yeah, so we use a tool called Wealth Feed, and I looked at all of them. Honestly, it was really hard to determine which tool to use because they honestly are all pretty great. We ended up using WealthFeed. We're starting to roll it out at an enterprise level. So like we're starting with our business development and client associates. Everyone has a license, and we are building enterprise level campaigns. So basically powered by the marketing. So make sure all the branding, the templates, the messaging is all consistent and repeatable. And then we're empowering our sales team to go out and build almost mini campaigns within their regions and targets. And then they're going to be leveraging all the tools and content that we've built into the system for them. And then it's all funneling back into Salesforce, which is our main source of truth.
So as we take a look at some of the things that marketers always ask for ideas on with me, one of the things that I think sort of dovetails into our AI conversation is what are some of those tech tools that you're using to maximize your capabilities within marketing, whether it's related to AI search or otherwise? Deanna, you were talking about a little bit about wealth feed. What else is in that marketing tech stack that you're finding useful for your advisors today for how the firm's diving in? I don't know. Maria, do you want to take this one in terms of what are some of those technology helpers that are part of your mix?
Well, when it comes to what advisors are using specifically,
Sure. Yeah.
we currently have a tech stack that includes Jump and Zox. And those are the two most utilized at this point. And I understand now why even more because than I did before, because when we did that survey that I spoke about, we asked the field what was the most or the biggest reason that they would want to use AI tools in their practice. And 65% of them came back and said client meeting notes. And 55% said meeting prep. And these percentages sound maybe like they're a little off because we let them choose up to 3. So we're seeing that those to the meeting prep and the client meeting notes were the biggest reason. And clearly that's to save them time so that they can be more efficient, right? That's kind of what that data is telling us, the story behind it. So those are the two main tools that we have available right now.
Awesome.
But we are in the process of adding more, but I don't want to speak too soon.
So, and what else do you have in the mix, Deanna, on your side? You mentioned wealth feed. Is there anything else that you think is part of your secret weapons, or tools that you're finding the firm is using to enhance the marketing reach?
Yeah, well, not just the marketing reach, but like firm wide. I mentioned we're AI forward, and I give a lot of credit to Kristen Ozenkowski. She's our COO. She has really championed this AI initiative. As a firm, the advisors are using Cognicore to help with meeting prep, workflow, and just like helping them save time and be better prepared for all these meetings, and then some. Right, there's so much more to it. And then on the marketing side, really, so WealthFeed is our main like AI prospecting tool. We also started leveraging a tool called Visit IQ. It helps us with pixels on our website, search intent signals, building lookalike audiences, and we're doing a deep dive of our data, and we're getting a full analysis of like who our prospects are, what they like, what they don't like, geography, all those things, so we can then better service them and better send them content and events to help reach them better. Because I don't know about you all, but when I get marketed something that I have no intent to buy, it is like the most annoying thing. I'm just like, know your audience, people. I do not want this thing right now, right? Like I don't want like Medicaid. I don't need it. Okay, at the moment. So,
Yeah.
I got an AARP application in the mail the other day, and I was like, wait a minute here.
What a waste of money, right? When that stuff happens, you're like, gosh, like these people are just wasting their marketing budgets on an audience that has no intent to buy or won't even think about buying for another like decade. And to me, that's just not good money management. So.
Yeah, well, it's a frustration, especially when any marketer you think would be held to a standard of what's your ROI, what are you getting out of this effort? And if you know you're going down blind alleys, dark alleys, getting nowhere, why would you waste your time and money to do that? I think because then not only do you waste the budget, but you also erode some of that confidence capital you need from the other stakeholders to keep doing things, right? And it's tragic. So
too, it's like, why do we want to waste our time going after an audience that has no intent to buy? And I think with the, with technology and where we've come, like it's come so far, right? Like 3 years ago, I didn't have access to these tools, right? Some of them didn't exist. Now we have the access. And I think it's more about, yes, you can buy all the tools, but I've been in orgs where we've bought all the fancy tools and we didn't deploy it the right way, or we didn't use it to its full capacity. Like every tool that we bring into the firm, we are using it to its max capacity. We are using max efficiency. Like I remember when I was at one firm, we used Marketo as our, marketing automation program. And the running joke was we're leveraging Marketo as an email single send platform because there was so much change management and learning and training that had to go into it that for about a year, everyone was just using it to send emails when they could have done so much more, right? So like that's a learning lesson. It's like you don't want to go down that path. You want to make sure you're leveraging these tools and deploying them so they're all connected.
Well, you hit on something. It's not just the technology, it's the change management, and it's the buy-in. And I think that's really a lesson that goes across not just the technology you use, but really anything that's going to be a big push marketing perspective wise. And so now let's have some fun. Let's go back to what I started this conversation with, which is congratulations to the two of you on being finalists for CMO of the year in your categories. I want to know, in your own humble self-assessment, what's the one thing that you think stood out that got them to say that you deserve to be a finalist? What's something your firm did that you think is like a centerpiece to why you're one of the finalists? I'd love to hear in your own words. And Deana, maybe you can go first. What do you think got you on the short list?
Gosh, I there's so many things I can say, but I really think it's transformation of the brand. We went in 2024. We went from a firm that marketing, was kind of just a function of the org, and now it's a one connected growth system. And I think that's really what landed me on this list with incredible talent, right, Maria?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because we're brilliant, amazing women. That's what I'd like to say.
Well, yeah,
Um, but seriously though, it's kind of hard when you're talking about like yourself or what you think somebody might have seen. But I think when it comes specifically to Axtella, my best guess would be um, I would use the word transformation as well. Yes, the brand, but also how we operate within that brand as a marketing unit, because this is the first time in the company's history, which Sigma's been around 43 years at this point. So it's been around a long time, but for the first time ever, marketing has become a revenue generator by pulling certain things under our umbrella, by launching a paid for service for financial professional marketing. And we have a full suite of offerings that advisors can pay for versus having to go to a third party that they're not familiar with to get those services. So for the first time in the company history, we have that revenue stream, and then we have the partnership the partnerships under our umbrella as well. So there's another revenue stream under the marketing umbrella, and then we have a couple more that I can't disclose just yet, but turning it from a cost center to a revenue generator as well.
And that's a big opportunity when you just get rid of the mentality that marketing costs something and it's an investment in something, right? And then if you go from cost to invest to then it's an income generator, so it's migrated down that path. You have a whole new world of possibilities that open up. And I think, while that may not necessarily be one of the line items of the nomination form for the wealthy, certainly, the evidence is there. If you're doing something different, making the marketing capacity take the function from a cost center to an investment or an income generator, I think that's a big deal. And I think most people who see leaders like you and understand what the difference you're making in organizations, they want to know sort of how did you get there. And so thanks for sharing some of that. So before we get to our parting shot, which is every episode we end, guests get a chance to have a piece of advice, a word of outlook, something to send off for our guests. I want to ask one other big picture question, which is this. When you think about the omnipresent discussion around organic growth in this industry, and there's a significant amount of ink, stage time at conferences, et cetera, that go to this point, what would you say is the driver behind this seemingly increased pressure? And what do you think marketing's real role is in terms of solving for this? And who else in the organization really should be part of the organic growth discussion for marketing really to have the lift that should have in addressing organic growth? Now, I know I said a mouthful there, right? It's a lot, but it's really central to folks out there thinking, okay, marketing 5 years ago, 10 years ago was thought of differently than it is today. And it very much is considered a linchpin for organic growth today. How does your organization, you, think about that? How do you address that pressure, that omnipresent noise around it's important to grow, it's important to bring on assets, it's important to attract advisors? You know, does that impact your day to day? How do you get the buy-in to make sure you're solving for the organic growth imperative? Like I said, it's a loaded question, so take it every way you want. But I'd love to hear how your organizations are solving for that, considering how omnipresent it is in the industry discussions.
I can start. So I think a few things. I think having the ability to be able to test the strategy, refine the strategy, and then prove that it's working, the results will speak for themselves. That if your strategy, if your marketing strategy is working and you're doing the right things, you will be generating revenue. You will helping increase retention. You will be engaging clients. The advisors will be bought in. Everyone will be bought in. So I think when you run a really solid marketing strategy and then you start to show the results, that is when you get the buy-in. And it no longer becomes like, should marketing be at the table? Like, marketing absolutely needs to be on the leadership team. Marketing needs to be part of all the growth conversations because, like in our org, marketing is involved in everything. No matter what it is, we're involved in, whether it's a growth initiative, whether it's a brand initiative, whether it's a client engagement, retention issue. Marketing is tapped in some way. And if that's whether it's creating, collateral to support the conversation, whether that's, making referrals easier, we are all connected. And I think when you have that connected growth system, that's when that notion kind of goes out the window. You don't need to have that conversation. It's just implied.
And so, and Maria, how would you respond to that? You start thinking about the organic growth imperative and how it shapes things at your firm.
Yeah, I think coming to the table with examples and data that helps you tell that story. So it's not just this is what I'm telling you, trust me, bro, type of conversation. You're actually giving proof, right? And marketing oftentimes does have to come to the table with some kind of proof. So just make sure you're prepared and ready to have those conversations and figure out who your trusted circle is, right? So my trusted circle includes our COO because we speak the same language. We have a similar background. So I can easily go to her and say, keep me honest. Does this sound right? Do I need to change my approach with this? Can you help me navigate this conversation in order to get the buy-in of the others? And so know who your biggest champions are and allow them to help you. You don't have to fight that alone.
Yeah. And I'll just add to that, like the data component, right? Like when you have proper attribution tracked, like we now can tell what was a first touch marketing channel and what was an influence campaign, right? And then we can report back and say, marketing drove X amount of dollars in the first half of the year, led to, the average client win. Our own data told us that the average client win in the first half of the year was touched by marketing 12 times. Let that sink in 12 times. So that just shows that, whether marketing brought them in from first touch or we've helped influence them along the process, we are part of that client journey from the very start. And then it doesn't end. We stay with the client from a lifetime because our goal is to not like be one and done. We want to make sure that we're continuously building value and engaging with our clients because this is what it's all about. It's yes, revenue and all that stuff. That's part of business, but like our audience is the client and how we serve them is what truly matters.
Well, and I love what you said there, Deanna. Just I want to flag you said that you had that stats say marketing touched the relationship 12 times, right? Did I get that
Yes.
right? And I think that underscores something. Marketing can't live in a gray area. You need to have some intentionality around how you're accounting for what's going on, letting marketing play alongside the other communications so you can keep track of things like that. I'm not sure how many organizations really have that discipline to keep tabs on all those things. And I think it's a really important function, is to be able to, tracking is an important function to make sure that marketing has a real read in terms of what's working and what's not. And again, I think, as you say, staying with the customer even after they become a customer and not just stop marketing to them. Because again, it also would, in my mind, would speak to the point of how do you prime the pump for referrals? You have to continue marketing to those people that have gone from prospects to clients. And so really good advice. And I love that nugget there about how you tracked, and you can literally say, hey, it's been 12 times. I mean, I think that's something that, maybe a throwaway comment to some, but really jumped off the page to me, the fact that you know that and see how it plays out. So we're at the point now. I'd love the two of you to give your parting shot, a little bit of wisdom, advice from a marketer's perspective in terms of what people should be looking out for. Maybe it's an idea you have you want to share. Maybe it's a word of wisdom to someone else coming up in the profession. Anything you'd like to share in terms of sort of a final send-off here on Marketing Matchup. Maria, I'm going to pick on you first. Do you have a parting shot for us?
So, I mean, there's so many things I feel like I could say right now. But one of my favorite quotes from one of the best marketers, in my opinion, that ever lived, David Ogilvy, he always said, don't be a bore. Right. So you can't bore someone into buying a product or joining your firm. Right. So you want to be part of the 1% that actually does get noticed. So don't be afraid to step outside of the box. Trust your instinct and your gut and allow the data to help lead you and guide you. And you'll find your way to be a great marketer.
That's good advice. Don't be a bore. My kids tell me that every week, at least.
Well, it makes me laugh. I like things that make me laugh.
Yeah. Deana, what's your parting shot?
All right. I have two. So one is always be curious and never stop. That is what keeps us going. And then the other one is keep your data clean. And if it's not clean, clean it. That'll tell you everything you need to know.
Well, I love that point about data, because one of the things we're also seeing in the age of AI, that even firms that aren't huge enterprises like Palantir or Anthropic, having data that tells you something, data that you can learn from, you can use the AI tools to your advantage. And it's not just about marketing, but it's about how you run your business overall. And I think that's a spot on piece of advice there. And I think one of the things I would add, my own takeaway would be, there is a place now at the marketing table, not just for people that took marketing or communications in college, but there's definitely a seat in the discussion now for analytics people, where all of a sudden the IT major in college or the computer science major, or statistics major, those kinds of people can show up in the marketing discussion and the marketing decision discussion, because we need as much help there to make sure we're getting the right readouts for what we're doing from a marketing standpoint. And so, and it ties into your point there, Deana, about keeping your data clean, because there's a lot more happening under the hood in marketing than sometimes people think about when they're first signing up for their marketing class in college. And so, again, great advice, the two of you. Maria and Deana, both of you will be in New York in September, hopefully winning the hardware there at the Wealthies. Thank you so much for taking the time to be part of the show again. Maria Bethel, who runs marketing for Axtella, Deana Lewis, Chief Marketing Officer at the Mather Group. Thank you both for joining Marketing Matchup.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you so much. Great to meet you.
You too, Maria.
Thanks for listening to Marketing Matchup, a production of Gregory. If you like what you heard, please listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.